David Roditi, welcome to Coffee with Coaches.
Thank you, Renee. Good to be here. Appreciate it. Love coffee, by the way.
So exciting to be with you. Oh, yeah, there you go. And just shout out, I'm actually cheating. I'm doing tea because I had my coffee in the morning. But shout out to my son Alex, who's going to Mizzou this
Awesome.
fall. Yeah, I was super excited about that. But I made sure I represented today and put on my NIU swag to give a shout out to the Huskies as well. But it's so great to be with you, David. First, I want to say congratulations on, you know, winning the 2024 national title with TCU men's tennis, its first national title in program history. And you've been on the grind. We've known of each other, for quite some time, and it's so good to connect this way. Um, how did you feel after you won the chip?
Well, I think it's on video. I think I went nuts. Yeah, it was really exciting. It was a lot of relief just of how many times as an athlete you're so close and then you don't get it. And so to actually get it, that was a huge sort of relief of God, thank God we get to experience this. I've always been so jealous of watching teams celebrate. That moment when teams win and they get to celebrate. You watch it every year, and you watch all these other sports, and so it was awesome to know what it feels like, and to watch our guys get to experience that and hug it out. It was exhilarating. It was so fun, and very proud of our guys for doing what they did. It's incredible what they did. It's awesome.
And it's incredible what you've done at TCU. I want to give people just a perspective, of your track record. Because as going through your bio, I was like, this is absolutely, it's insane. And I think anyone, in coaching, for any aspiring leaders and leaders that are just committed to taking their game to the next level, you're an unbelievable example. I'm going to go through just a couple of bullet points here. Obviously you won the chip this year, which is an unbelievable accomplishment. But you've got 3 Big 12 tournament titles under your belt, 5 Big 12 Coach of the Year awards, 10 NCAA tournament appearances. What I love, you've been in the top 10 for 10 straight seasons. So your commitment and execution around consistency is proven, right? You've won over 70% of your matches as a head coach. Um, you've been coaching at TCU since 2010, so you're not new to this game. You've been on the grind. It reminds me of John Wooden, who was at UCLA for quite some time, right? And then he hit the jackpot, and once he hit the jackpot, he went on a run that to this day is unprecedented in college basketball. And I'm sure that that's where your head is at right now. You're like, how can we keep this going? How can we keep this train going? Um, Talk to us about culture, because that's the topic of our conversation today. And what's the culture at TCU? And what was the culture this past year for you guys?
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, all those titles and accolades and accomplishments, it's the players. The players are the ones that have to go out there and suffer and earn it. We as coaches do the best we can to keep them corralled in one direction, do the best that we can. But at the end of the day, uh, you remove yourself and they got to go out there and get it done. So that is all those 10 years, top 10. That's just a sign of that we've had a lot of really good tennis players. And that where I take the credit is is knowing enough to know that I don't know everything, that I don't have the answers for everything, and the credit of hiring Devin Bowen and let him run the show. That's my that's where I get the credit, is knowing to just get out of the way a lot of the times, and that if there was a theme to last season, is I think we won it because of all the things that we didn't do. And there were a lot of situations where we could have injected ourselves as coaches and we would have been right, but it wouldn't have been the best for the team. And trying to understand this generation, trying to understand the different personalities. So the last few years, we had some very different personalities in the team, and just learning to understand each guy and how they their mind works and how they tick, and how do you get each player to be at their best at the right time. That was the tricky part. That and a lot of it was just not opening our mouth. So our culture, Devin Bowen is he's sort of I would divide our program into two. Devin Bowen and I were like brothers. We've known each other since I was 10 years old. He's the reason I came to TCU. He was a mentor to myself. Um, and I know how his mind works, and he's an absolute machine. He's just a dog, and he's all business. He's just all business. He's really funny, but you got to really be around him for a long time to see that. Um, so he's funny. He's great, but we're so different personality wise. So when it comes to the tennis part, he's in charge. He sets a tone, and it's a very disciplined, very um, individual approach. Not There's not a lot of micromanaging. It's sort of allowing the players to lead until they're going the wrong way. Then we interject ourselves. There's not a lot of back and forth. It's just letting the guys lead. I mean, we talk about a lot about this is your team. This is your team, and what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to do? And fortunately enough, we've had guys that want to do better than the team before, than the year before, and it's fun to watch. And so very competitive, but at the same time, Devin's got this side to him that respect is at the highest, humility is at the highest. It's all about working hard. If you don't get it done, the work you don't deserve to win. You don't deserve the titles if you're not willing to put the work in. Um, and I'm more the sort of the jokester. I sort of fill in where I see that to balance things out at certain moments, or to be open to a guy not being at his best that day because he's upset because he broke up with his girlfriend. And so that's sort of I just sort of play the chameleon of where I feel I need to go in and what role I need to play on that day. But it's about the guys, and it's about understanding them and allowing them to be themselves. They each have their own genius in their own individual way, and allowing that to shine within something that helps the program. And luckily, the guys really care about winning. They really care about the program. We don't talk about, oh, everything's about what's the best for the team. We don't overdo it. It's just sort of allow it to happen homogeneously, if that's a word. And we're lucky that guys care. We've had some awesome leaders and captains. We let the guys select the captains, and the captains, their role is more of a service, not of power. Is more of being the example and picking up their teammates and allowing and helping their teammates, more service oriented than it is, oh, I'm the captain, you're going to do what I say. And our captains this year were Jake and Pedro, who honestly, I never heard them act like a captain in front of the group, but I know they were doing their work behind the scenes.
So, if you could identify three specific benefits that your players um, were able to experience as a result of this independent culture that you and Devin had created, what would those benefits or rewards be?
Yeah, I would say accountability. Accountability's up there. That they we want them to understand that to own the good and the bad. With that, when good things happen, it's because of something good you've done, and if things don't go your way, there's somewhere where we could have done things better. So a lot of accountability, um, belief, belief in themselves, the goal. So it's all about development, right? So not just as a tennis player, but also as a person that believe that the moment they go into the real world, they can get the job done, whether it is as an employee, whether it is as a CEO, or as a tennis player, professional tennis player. So that accountability, that belief, and then owning who they are. Owning, I would say that's the benefit is that there's a huge difference of who Jake Fernley is versus Jack Pennington. Huge. And the way they do their things is different, and they can learn from each other, and being okay with that and owning that you're different. How can you learn from each other? How can you learn from each other's mistakes? But you gotta know what your strengths are and who you are, and not pretend you're somebody else. Own it, and then what does the best version of yourself look like, and let's go for that. So there is, we yeah, there's not a lot of, the way that we would show accountability that we've worked is that when they make a mistake or they screw up, like everybody does, 18 to 22 year olds make a mistake just about every day. The way the consequences are always as a team, and that we found that that's the best way to, one, hold them accountable, but see how their actions can affect the team. That is the one thing that we do that is very team oriented. And as a coach, you don't have to do a lot. Just they will monitor themselves. So yeah, did I answer your question, Renee? Is that
Absolutely. I love it. David, what's your definition of culture?
culture? I would say is sort of, I think of environment, the environment that it's created, the the sort of parameters or expectations from the overall team and program and coaches, um, that what's okay and what's definitely not okay. Um, the way you're expected to treat others, the way you're expected to behave on and off the court, um, how how we are in the locker room versus how we are to the community, to our fans, to our alumni. So all that understanding of what is, TCU tennis sort of stand for. What are our values that are important to us? And yeah, I think I would like to think that values like humility, um, gratitude, sportsmanship. I'm as competitive as it gets, and I'm the first one when I say sportsmanship. I'm the first one to admit that I can cross that line at times. It's always been it's who I am, right? And I know it, and I'm very aware of knowing when to stop. Um, and not always, but but it is. I would like to believe that sportsmanship. That if you play TCU, that you should expect good calls, and if they make a mistake, they make a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes, and everybody makes bad calls, but it's not who we are as a program. Yet we compete hard. So, yeah, I like those things, and a lot of it is just from from who we are, who Devin is, who I am. We have a new coach joining us, and we'll make an announcement. I think people know who it is, and he'll add to that culture of competitiveness, grit. Um, yeah, um, I think if you're true to who you are, then those things, you don't have to talk about it. You just sort of do it, and yeah, that's been a really fun process to go through with Devin. It's not easy when you have your older brother work together. There's the guys have watched when we go at it in front of the guys. That's always the guys. They're like, oh my god, our parents are fighting in front of us, you know. Uh, but there's a lot of respect and a lot of understanding between us, and knowing who he is, knowing who I am, and what do we do? What are we doing with this team? And yeah, it's been great. It's been a good run.
I've always said, passion drives real success, right? And you obviously have that passion, and Devin has that passion, and you've been able to create an environment that is so enthusiastic. And it's funny, your thoughts on sportsmanship remind me of one of my mentors, a guy that I think Andy Brandy. I once asked Andy about flexibility, and he said, Renee, flexibility is a loaded word, and I feel the same about sportsmanship. Sportsmanship, it's a loaded word, and everyone has their own definition of sportsmanship. But at the end of the day, it is about competing hard. It's about doing the right thing fundamentally in the moment to the best of your ability, and none of us are perfect, and I would raise my hand right up there with you in terms of crossing the line. And if you talk to some of our mutual friends, and other coaches, and they say, what is it like, coaching against Renee and his team, you're going to get all over the board, feedback. So it is what it is, and you're either going to live by your own expectations, or you're going to try to play somebody else's game, which never ends in a win. So I'm with you on that. You talked a little bit, or mentioned, you know, your mentor, maybe Tut Bartson, who I remember from back in the day, a legend in collegiate tennis coaching.
This guy right here.
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, absolutely unbelievable. What did you learn from playing for Tut about building a great culture?
Completely different personalities, correct? I mean, he would just shake his head when he would see our like music out here at the tennis matches. I'm more from the Greg Patton, Wayne Bryan school of marketing and creating chaos. Coach Bart's in complete opposite. But what I learned from him, even though we were completely opposites personality wise, was consistency, keeping things very simple. He didn't overcoach, and his genius was in that. It was simple, like hit the ball higher. That's it. You hit the net, hit it higher. And so very simple. Same thing. Talk about mentors. Jose Guerras at the USDA. Had the so lucky to be mentored by him and work for him. Same, identical to Coach Bartson. In the genius was in how simple. So I that's a big goal. Um, Coach Bartson was, you knew what to expect. You knew when he was going to be mad at you, and you knew when he was pleased, or you knew exactly what to expect. So keeping things consistent as to the expectations, what I said earlier, what to expect and what not to expect. Um, and he was yeah, he never, we're probably a little bit different, and I have my reasons, whatever, but he almost to a fault, he was just ridiculously humble, just beyond to a fault. I really believe if he had a little bit of Wayne Bryan in him, uh, or Greg Patton, our program, I used to think like, oh my God, we're top five like every year, and nobody knows about TCU tennis other than the tennis community in the colleges. He was so well respected. So I never heard him curse, not once. Darn it was as bad of a word as he ever said. So just an unbelievable from a human, very much a father figure to me. So yeah, that was Coach. 50 years this year from being hired by TCU. He was hired in 1974. So it's amazing that 50 years later, here we are.
Yeah, I mean, and kudos to you, and just everybody associated with TCU tennis for getting the chip this year on that 50th anniversary. it's amazing how the universe works, right? And I'm with you on the marketing, and I'm with you on, what we call on the business side, shouting from the mountaintop. If you don't blow your own horn, there is no music. And I think a lot of coaches and leaders, they err on the side of being too humble. I mean, humility is a great characteristic, but not enough of these leaders have competed at the level, that you've competed at, or that I've had the opportunity to experience, as a coach. And it's just a different ball game, and um, I'm sure there's nobody that's more proud of the success that you've created at TCU, because you're the one who's created it. You've woken up excited every single day to get after it. You know what that looks like. You've witnessed every single point. You've been there for every single win, and you've been there for every loss, and you felt it viscerally in your gut every single day. For 10 plus years. One of the things we haven't touched on, David, is your experience as a player. As it's what you've achieved as a coach is absolutely insane. I am on the record, like, it's insane. I will stay connected to what you continue to do at TCU, because I know that's going to make me better. And if it makes me better, it's going to make my teams better and everybody around me better. But what you've achieved as a player, I mean, 41 in the world ATP doubles. That's no joke. You're highly successful in singles. What experiences have you taken as a player that you've been able, you feel, to translate to your team in helping your players become the best that they can be?
Yeah, thank you, Renee. Well, in doubles is you're only as good as your doubles partner. That's number one rule. No, but I think when it came down to the matches, when I was talking about the different personalities, is to trust to trust these guys. They're not. I mean, they're not 40, but they're not little kids either, and a lot of times they know better. A lot of times they know better because they're with each other 24/7, just about. And that if you believe that they have the right intentions of winning and the team getting better, to listen to the guys, and to trust the guys and trust their opinions. Um, I, and I think back of when I was a player, there were times where, I mean, it sounds terrible, but I knew better. I knew better than the coach as far as something that was coming up, whether it was a match, the conference tournament, and thinking of the lineup situations and thinking about. I remember knowing what Texas was going to do with their lineup, so I went into coach's office and I told him to move our lineup for the conference tournament to put me higher. And not because I wanted to play higher, it's because I didn't want to play the guy that we're going to put at number 3. He was going to beat me. And he trusted me, and it worked out beautifully. So I always keep that from when I was back as a player. He knew my intentions. He knew I was a team guy, and he trusted that it wasn't about me playing higher. And and that happened this year. That happened. You saw there was a change in the lineup between the round of 16 and the final site. Correct. We switched 4 and 5,
Mm-hmm.
and in the finals we won at 4 and 5, and that was from a player. Sebastian Gorsny came to us and said, "I don't want to play 4." So we listened to him, and he would have been okay moving to 3, and he would have been okay moving to 5. So we moved him to 5, and it worked out great. So I think that's very in the forefront. That yeah, they're younger, they're kids, they don't know it all, but they do care and they do know. They do. So always listening to them.
It's greater to be trusted than it is to be loved. And you reminded me of, we had an instance this past semester where one of our players texted me a drill, and he said, "Hey, coach, can we do this drill in practice? And, maybe 10 or 15 years, I would look at it differently, and now it's just like, absolutely, and made sure within 24 to 48 hours, we're doing that drill. We incorporate it into our practice plan, and it's those little opportunities to build trust with your players. I think, the word that hasn't come out of your mouth in this conversation, but that's been up here listening to you talk, is confidence. I think the ability that you've shown to build confidence in your players and in your team, that can only come from a place of confidence, right? Which comes from your ability to know what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. And you and Devin have created that dynamic at the top, so to speak. Say, hey, this is where you're going to shine. This is where I'm going to come in and I'm going to shine this way. And I think it's it's magical in the sense that you've you understand how players look at a head coach traditionally. They give you, because you've got the title, they're going to give you an elevated level of respect most of the time, right? You're always going to have your outliers and your rebels, who you and I probably, we love those guys, right? Because we have a little bit of rebel in us. So we see ourselves in them. But the fact that you can be the chameleon and come off as more of the easygoing guy, like everything's good, life is great, helps create a safe environment, a culture where your guys can be the best version of themselves. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, 100%. And you, I think it comes to what you were saying about knowing and being true to who you are and knowing your strengths and weaknesses. I go out of my way to to talk about my weaknesses. There's a reason being on time is not probably talked about or value enough. It's not one of our values at the very top because I know I'm the first one to break that, and I
I'm
and
with you. Yeah.
I own it. So I don't pretend to be somebody I'm not. I do I like to believe that I'm looking to get better, and Devin's taught me a lot on the mental side, on the human side. So you are looking to improve, but you also got to know who you are and stay true to that. So we talk a lot about that. We demonstrate that. Devin, same thing. He's super humble and owns his who he is and doesn't try to pretend. And I think that helps the guys. Hopefully they feel like they can be who they are. And there's at that age you're still I'm
Yeah.
50, so it's taken a whole 50 years to get to this. And there we work with a company, Driven for Life, that we've done this every three years or so, like a team building, team bonding. And that is the main thing. The biggest thing out of that is we all have our strengths, we all have our weaknesses, owning them, being aware of them, and then focus on your strengths. Focus on what you do well. Like if I told Devin, hey Devin, you're in charge of marketing for our program, uh, he would be the most unhappy person in the world, and our marketing would go to toilet. And if he said, David, you're in charge of making sure that everybody's on time and that we have the consistency and the discipline on a daily basis and nobody can get distracted, I would feel like I'm in jail,
Yeah.
handcuffed. And so we talk about that and we own it
Yeah.
in front of the guys for them to be. And you talked about confidence. I gained a lot of confidence on our program this year, on our team, from the guys. From the guys. They were the ones saying, Coach, why can't we win it this year? We can win it this year. I think we're better than last year, which made no sense. We have the exact same team as last year. We added 3 freshmen who stepped up big time when we needed them, when we had injuries. And Duncan was a huge plug in doubles. But in singles, at the end there, those 6 guys were on the team the year before. So we had 8 really good players last year. We lost 2 of our winningest, Fumba and Sander Young, 2 of the winningest in the history of TCU. We lost them, and everybody had to move up. Texas kept the same team, added 3 guys to their lineup. Lucas Brown or Braswell were going to play, and Gills Bailey, who basically went undefeated and the best number 3 in the nation by far.
Mhm.
Could have been maybe the best number 1. We'll find out. It makes no sense. It makes no sense that we would win. It doesn't make sense. But it was from the guys. Like the guys kept saying, Jack Pennington was like, Coach, I think we're better. And Pedro is like, I think we can win this. So I got a lot of confidence from them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. You know, the guys are smarter than me. You know, I'm not going to speak for yourself, but
A
my
hundred,
guys,
100%.
I mean, they're smarter than I am. And I'll tell you, one of the things I learned from Greg Patton at Boise State and at from Cal Irvine prior to that was the power of nicknames. Actually, when you talk about confidence, I mean, Greg was the master at everybody had a nickname. I mean, I was Gandhi, which I hated at the time. You know, when I look back, it was actually like, you
That's a
know,
big expectations
that's a
there.
big expectation. Like, Greg, why are you putting that on me, right? But and for some odd reason, you know, now I have this knack of, I mean, our guys have 2 or 3 different nicknames and they just come, our recruits that are coming in this fall, they already have nicknames. I got a guy from Bolivia. He's the Bolivian Bull, you know, like we've just got all this stuff. It just, it's confidence works both ways. You know, it works both ways. And I think, you know, earlier in my career, I didn't get it, right? Because I think we were brought up in a time where there were still remnants of that authoritarian style of leadership. You know, the Vince Lombardis, even the John Woodens, like you mentioned, you know, the fact that, you know, your energy is much more passionate. Devin is more on the discipline side. You know, if you study the life of John Wooden, I mean, he comes across as this real super like calm, even keel guy. Well, I'm not that. It took me a few years to realize like I'm never going to be that. I'm never going to be just this calm guy. I'm up and down, depends on the day. You know, you talked about time management a little bit or just in terms of being on time. I mean, I'm never on time, so it's not a rule for our program. That being said, if I see a guy that's just he's late, even a few minutes and he's walking, I have a problem with that. If you're running, that's different. My response is going to be completely different. If you're hustling to get there or if you DM'd me, you know, 5 or 10 minutes before, you're communicating. And communication is a value for us.
Communication is, I would say, 95% of any issue, any problem. It's just lack of communication. And these days, there's no excuse, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't get any easier
Yeah.
to communicate than right now. I mean, you can almost, your phone can almost do something that you're thinking about. It's
So,
almost that easy. So that is a huge part of, with tutors, with academic advisors, with fitness coach, with trainers, with all our supporting staff. Communication is number one.
uh, 10,000%. And it's interesting because, you know, my entire career has been really dedicated to developing leaders on and off the court. And the more you grow as a leader, the more you see that leadership is one thing, but communication is everything. It's all about communication. And when I shifted my mindset to um, thinking like a leader to being a master communicator, improving my communication skills and my ability to connect and listen and to build trust and those things, I started to see much better results, you know, as a coach and off the court in my personal life. David, there's 2 things I want to touch before I let you go. And I really appreciate your time and this feedback's been, I mean, off the charts helpful. Not only for me, but I know it's going to serve a lot of people. You guys at TCU, I read this, you average about 1,000 fans at your home matches. What was the genesis of that? How long did it take to get there? And what are some of the rewards that you guys have seen from having that kind of following?
Yeah, that was a huge priority from day one. That was my, we talked about Coach Barton, legendary. That was not who he was. He would schedule matches 2 p.m. on a Wednesday. It's like, well, we had the three same fans, even though we were top five. So that was my pet peeve. So we're gonna do everything we can to make our program relevant, fun, very Wayne, right straight out of Wayne Bryan's books. Uh, Greg Patton, someone that we've both of us been around. That sort of mentality of, to me, all the, you go to the US Open and people go there because of the event. They don't necessarily go there just because of the tennis. So with that mindset, that was the number one priority. The reason I looked over there is, if I'm going to move, well, you're going to see all the mess. I don't want you to see that. But
That's okay.
there's a chalkboard there at the very top. It says 1,000 fans at a TCU tennis match. That was written day one. Day one, Wayne Bryan, straight out
Yeah.
of his book. And the guys on the team would write what they thought would work, getting 1,000 fans. And there's never been an idea that we haven't tried. Everything and anything. And we just have fun with it and then see what sticks, and then we stick with it. So that was important to me. Mark Chia, who was our other coach at the time, also a TCU alum, he was a big part of that, and we put a lot of energy, to a fault almost. Like Devin Bowen, like, gets mad at me. It's like, can you stop worrying about marketing? It's like, no, that's who I am. That's what makes me happy. Uh, go run practice. Let me get a few more fans out here. So that was just important to me, and it fits who I was. I know that not every coach is that way. So I would say, if that's not you as a coach, then maybe your assistant is, maybe the second coach is, maybe your wife is, or your husband, your partner. It might be your marketing. Hopefully your marketing person is, whoever. And then we put together this Keep It in the Purple committee. And there's no way we can talk about the success of our program without our Keep It in the Purple committee. It's about eight members that are just give their sweat and tears and soul to the program, and they know who they are, and they're just behind the scenes, always helping. So as a leader, getting people, surround yourself with people that are better than you, more qualified than you, passionate people that can help you and give them what they want, and let them do their thing and keep it in the pro committee. That's who they help us get fans and ideas, and we have fun with it. And it's been great. Not every match has 1,000 fans, but I would say on average it's about, I'd say it's about right. Um,
How
and
long did it take to get there?
we had 1,000 fans on year one. At the very end, we played
Wow.
UNLV. We played UNLV, and it was two unranked teams. I think we might have been in the 70s in their ranked, but it wasn't about that, or 60s. It was about the energy and creating and giving people a reason, knowing who your market is. We are lucky at TCU. I say this every time I talk about bringing fans to tennis matches. We are very lucky that we have a beautiful, absolutely beautiful facility, lots of parking in the middle of there's 5 country clubs, 5 minutes, 10 minutes from campus. We're in a neighborhood. We're not downtown. There is no traffic to get here. I don't care where you're coming from. There is no traffic. So, so there is a lot of advantages that I don't have to overcome as a head coach here to get people out here. So I don't think you can expect that from every program. You might be in the middle, downtown, no parking. Yeah, those are challenges. So we just look at what we got and try to make the most of it. So yeah, year one, that group, we had 5 seniors that were key to that group, and we barely missed NCAAs that year. But that was the number one goal, and the guys bought in and they led it. They were all about it was almost more important to see how many fans we had that year than winning the tennis match. And that group built on based on what they built on day one, even though it's a group that didn't even make the NCAAs. We wouldn't have what we have today if it weren't for them buying in on day one about fans coming in.
So, David, I have one more question for you, and I think next generation leaders can get a lot from how you decide to answer this question. So rather than just asking you something like, "What advice would you give to those that are looking to become better leaders?" My question is, what kind of legacy do you want to leave as a coach, leader, and human being?
Oh boy, man, I'm too young to think about that. At an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, I'm still in the woods. I talk about our guys from our players' perspective. There's so many perspectives when you talk about legacy and who TCU tennis was, who Devin was, who David Roditi was, and what his program. So from a player's perspective, that that I say that my word is the most important. The day I die, all I take with me is my word. So if there was one player that said that I lied to him or I didn't do what I said I would do, it would crush me. And I want that player to text me tomorrow. Just tell me where did I go wrong. So that's to me that's part of who I want. And also that our players, when they look back, when they bring their family, when they're 42 years old and they bring their 8-year-old and their 7-year-old and they come back on campus, they talk about their experience. Not obviously this team, they got to win the NCAAs, but I bet they won't even talk about that. I think they'll talk about their experience, and that there's a lot that goes into that. The way they were treated by us, by our Keep It in the Purple committee, by our staff, by our school, by our professors, just the overall experience that regardless of how busy their life is or how tough, business is going and family and trying to keep your family going together, that when they think about their time at TCU, it just brings a huge smile. It's like greatest experience. Not all great. I remember coach yelling at me over there. I remember getting in trouble over there. I remember running those stadium, whatever. Not all good, but part of who they became in a good way. Like I learned, I matured, I got better, and I was treated fairly, respectfully, and it brings back good memories. That's yeah, I would like that. And then from our staff, that they were treated with respect. I mean, Devin would literally kick my butt if I was ever in any way disrespectful, rude to any of our staff members. It happened at NCAAs. He let me absolutely have it. I still think I had a good point. He just didn't like the way I did it, but I was trying to make a point, and I was okay being the bad guy at that point. It was literally first day of NCAAs, final sight. Um, so that to me, from our staff, I would hope that they would feel that way. And we've had the same staff basically for 10 years, 8 years. So it's
I love
that
it, David.
it's a
I
good
mean,
sign. Hopefully, it's a good sign.
look, you're authentic, and I believe it's easy to forgive authenticity. You know that.
I think if you're not real, the guys know it. They know it. They know it when you're full of BS. You come out, you come up with a line that you claim it's yours. They're like, Coach, I saw that tweet yesterday. Don't don't give me that quote. I saw that Instagram. I saw that little graphic. Don't even pretend. So you can say it, but you better say, hey, I read a good quote yesterday on on Twitter, Instagram. They know when you're not. They can read it, they can smell it, and to me, it takes away from when you really say something that they won't listen as much. I don't know. It's important. Thank you for saying that. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I mean, I've really enjoyed our time together. So much gold nuggets. I think for leaders across industries, in tennis, in what we do as college coaches, but I think for business people, for CEOs, for entrepreneurs, for salespeople, I mean, you're a marketing guy. Just so much value there, and I really enjoyed connecting with you, David. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Renee. Thanks for having me. It's been fun. Really appreciate it.